Check, check, 1, 2. It is still 7 o'clock, at least by my count. So we're starting right on time. Oh, never mind, there's 7:01. It turned to 7:01 before the stream officially started. Oh well. Let me paste my link right there and jump over to the Trainz official Discord and do the same. Welcome to another episode of Under Construction. I'm your host, Ellis, otherwise known as the Admiral. Let's see, route, building, stream live now. For those who are just stumbling onto this, I will say there are important links in the video description. Oh, why am I playing the session? That's not what I wanted to do. Let's try that one again. While that loads, of course, we will jump into this. It's very hot here. It's been about 90 degrees today on a early June day, which I guess is not too bad. We're into June before it starts getting really miserable. Already thinking about, talking about, figuring out a beach day. Hello, Train Street. And in the meantime, figuring out everything else that has to go on. What's up with me is that, well, I'm very sunburned from being in the field yesterday and the day before out in Connecticut looking at the Hartford line. And in between everything, I've been doing wedding planning and trading card planning and just all sorts of stuff. I actually might make today kind of a short one so I can sit and do something that isn't immediately prescribed. There's been like a long procession of chaotic things that have happened to me. Not like necessarily bad things, just things that have, the moment I sit down and I'm like, okay, I can sit down and be productive. I can send an email to the Norfolk and Western Historical Society about the fact that they haven't gotten back to me about those photos I need for trading cards. I can send an email to Dynamo Productions about the photos that they have. It would be really nice. I can send something to Brian Burton. I have a lot of emails that I have to write, like basics, like just like to start with, on top of nothing else. Oh, we got a threefer. And the moment I sit down to do that, something comes up. I get a phone call, I gotta go somewhere, something breaks. Great start to Terraria. Oh man, I could do a Terraria series. It's been a long time since I've played that game. I think what I joked about, like the 10-year anniversary of me last playing it, I would start a new Terraria series. I know some people who would probably want to get in on that. I would be down for it. I'll have to check my Steam to see when the last time I played it was. I think it might have been 2015, though, or maybe 2016. I'm pretty sure the last time I played it was the last time I made a video in it. Although, I wonder if the very last video I made ever got aired. I have a really bad habit of when a season, or when a series is ending, or when I know I'm not going to make any more videos in it, I never bother to post the last one. That's how I ended up with a bunch of videos just like sitting in a folder on my computer that I God knows if any of those are ever going to see the light of day. But what will, because today is June 5th, and I forgot to make an announcement about this yesterday. Again, very chaotic. We are less than a month away from the 10th anniversary of the Iron Horseman Chronicles, of the release of On Stranger Tides, which was, if I remember right, it was July 4th, 2015. I had recently returned from Train Mountain. We banged out that episode in like 2 weeks, from nothing almost. It was very much a getting our feet under us and figuring things out, it wasn't a disaster, but it was something. It was definitely chaotic, and production never really got less chaotic on that show. If you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, you're welcome to look up the Iron Horseman Chronicles on this very website. It is a Trainz Machinima series that we, the Iron Horsemen, made 10 years ago. The fact that it's been 10 years is absolutely absurd. But that's what happened. I mean, time flew. I never thought I'd be making trading cards. I never thought that would be my sort of top billing thing. What's funny though is, like making the Chronicles and making this were just like Trainz projects in series. Yeah, in series. It was as soon as I felt like I was done building that route, like as soon as I gave up on completing it, I moved on to this project. Oh, that didn't fit. And like, okay, this project is me not playing Tetris, but you know, I mean the other stuff that I do that comes after this. No, no. Oh, I got so screwed over there. Oh man, that is not what I needed to happen. That isn't either, but I'm like game over, man. I cut art class today and played mobile Terraria with some friends. Don't cut art class. I mean, don't cut any class, but man, art class is like the best class. I mean, I don't know what art class is like for you, but it feels like such an empty gesture to cut art class. I can't abide by it. I can't promote it. I can't say that you should be out there cutting class. I can't say that you did a good job with that. I'm sorry. It's just my job here. We're doing literally nothing. Then go play Terraria in class. Just kidding. Don't do that. Oh, last art class. Oh yeah, that's right. It's the end of the school year, isn't it? I mean, still don't cut. I was never a class cutter. I was a bad student, but I always showed up. Like that's like I went to school. You know, I was one of those kids who basically had perfect attendance were it not for occasionally getting sick and like once in a blue moon having what I guess the kids these days would call a mental health day. Where I was just really not feeling it, and I asked my dad, and he was just like, that's okay. You can stay home. That happened maybe twice. I think that's fine, honestly. I can't, you know, it would be kind of rude of me to rag on my past self and say like, oh, I should have, oh shoot, there's a thing there. I shouldn't have done that. Shame on me. And you shouldn't do that now. Shame on you. No, it's like, I get it. You need to take a day off. So our teacher didn't show up, so we didn't show up. Your teacher didn't show up, so you had a substitute? Or you had nobody? Because there were a couple of classes that I had in high school. Our teacher, who I'm not sure if he's still at the school, I wouldn't be surprised either way. He was an engineer by trade, and he got into teaching. This was a robotics class, so it was a relatively specialized class, like to begin with. So it wasn't a big deal. Like it wasn't super regimented. We didn't have to worry about like Common Core standards and stuff like that. Is what I'm getting at, of course. We didn't have to meet a specific curriculum set out by the district. It was a career and technical program, so we sort of did whatever the teacher thought would be good for us, which was good, and I'm not going to undercut that. Honestly, I'll name drop the guy. Mr. Spidell is one of the best teachers I ever had. He was a super duper cool, super cool dude. He was, if I remember right, he was battling cancer for a lot of his tenure teaching us, and so sometimes he just wouldn't be able to come to class. And, I would imagine the administration did not begrudge him because he was just a legendary teacher. He was a great teacher. But there were a couple of times where they didn't know he wasn't coming, and so we didn't have a substitute. And so we sort of, the inmates ran the asylum, as it were, and we sort of hung out and we did whatever, and, we would have longer duration projects. We'd have stuff that was like, okay, here's the resources, here's a little robot thing, like a little hexagon with wheels and motors and a logic controller. Make this drive, figure out how to make this drive. Here's the resources. This is what you program in. Go for it, right? And so that was, no one was watching the class. Yeah, that's not good to have, but it's less bad that it's the last class of the year. I guess it's less bad that it's art class too. Like if all the, what was that? I thought I just heard a bunch of stuff at the floor. That table behind me is a disaster. No, the robot was a hexagon and it had wheels. I actually think it might have been an octagon. It was a little thing. It was about this big. It had two wheels and a little trailer, like rolling ball, like what's on the top side of your mouse, Dean. And uh, and it could drive around, right? It was the task was to make it drive. You know, not a very specific, detailed task, and that's just an example. That's not one of the things that we were dealing with when. Um, that's not one of the things that we were dealing with when we were uh, when we didn't have a teacher. Actually, during that we had we were in we were in pairs. We were almost always in pairs in that class, and one of the things that sticks out to me. Oh, this is an interesting one. Yeah, no, I mean we've got. I kind of want to put this over here. Like I want to put this somewhere. I want to feel like this area started getting developed. I'm not sure what to do with it. Sup, Douglas Welsh? Welcome to the stream. Um, I didn't have a partner because my partner was away with his family on a cruise. So I was working by myself, and I was the first one to get the robot to drive, and that's something I'll always be proud of. Like I'll always be proud of myself for like, oh, I figured out the mobile robot before anybody else in the class, and everyone else was working in pairs. Was it because they were getting distracted because they were in pairs? I don't know. I'm not going to take a guess, but all I know is that I figured it out. I didn't want to go to Surveyor 2.0. That's not what I wanted to do. Anyway, like I was saying at the beginning of the stream, for a couple of reasons, this might end up being a short episode. We are going to have company in an hour or so, and I might step off then, or I might wait a little while and then step off. Imagine your school having cool classes. Well, in fairness, this was not, I mean, it was a quote-unquote normal public school, but more importantly, it was a school that had a career and technical center adjoining it. Like the school part was just normal public school, and the career and technical center was something other. You know, it was almost a different administration. It was just, okay, yeah, this is over here. Now, this has got like a carport sort of thing. That's kind of cute. Not big on carports, but this isn't too bad. Doesn't have a roof. It doesn't have a room over it. This is the kind of thing. This should go on a corner, actually. Let's put this over there. It's a lot of houses that I feel like belong on corners. Oh, you know what? It needs to be this way. Yeah, there we go. Troublesome truck coaster and one of the balloon rides. I just forwarded a few things to the chat. Oh, 2 Edaville rides got relocated to Maine. Where in Maine? I feel like those things would do well at Booth Bay. You know, I feel like Booth Bay Railway Village is the right place for a lot of the Edaville stuff to end up. It could very well be Edaville, too. Hey, Pat. Thunder up. Grab your thunder, buddy. Oh, factory. Lighthouse. Boathouse. Abandoned derelict house. Yeah, we can put a derelict house in the corner. A derelict house on the corner across from the graveyard. That's going to be great for some vibes. Every time I put in a derelict house on this map, I think about, like, what stories would the 10-year-olds of Tolbrand be telling each other about this place, right? The elementary school ghost stories about, oh, old man Jenkins used to live there, and then he died, and they buried him right across the street from his old house, so he always haunts his house. That's why they've never been able to sell it. You know, they got relocated to Palace Playground Amusement Park in Old Orchard Beach. Oh, okay. The one you can see from the train. Hey, I mean, I love how everything in Edaville ends up in Maine. It's like a closed loop, right? The back seat is haunted. I have some good news. Speaking of which, the Volvo is the wagon. The Volvo. I've got 2 of those. Is back in my possession. After call number 3 from Tony, where he was like, hey, yeah, this car has definitely been on fire and you never noticed. which is just a spectacular series of calls with him. He rewired a lot of that car, which is doubly funny to me because one of the things, the Ghost of Foamer's Past, yeah, because one of the things that the dude who sold me that car was so happy to tell me was that, I've been rewiring this car from scratch. Like, I've been doing it all myself. That's why the heated seats aren't connected, which they're still not connected. I don't care for heated seats. I've been doing that all myself, and it's like, oh, that's great. Everything caught on fire. If I could tell him, like, hey, I don't know if you messed with this wiring specifically, but this wiring got a little bit spicy. And Tony had to, like, rip apart the whole dashboard and do this and that and the other thing. And, he sent me some wonderful pictures. And I learned something today, too, which is, like, another thing. So, he calls me yesterday, the day before, whatever. And he says... No, I think it actually happened before Apollo. I can get to that later. I think it happened before I was even dating Gloria, which is an interesting metric of time, but it's like a different world that I was living in then. A much more depressing world, incidentally. And based on the robot thing, I think it might have indirectly become a catalyst for future Skynet. Yeah, no. The robot wasn't smart enough to think for itself. And it eventually set itself on fire inside of a locker. So that happened on a day that we didn't have the teacher. It wasn't mine. It wasn't my bot specifically. I don't want to embellish this story too much. It wasn't my bot, but it was like the smartest dude in the class's bot. Like, he figured out how to make that class an honors class. It was already, like, robotics was already a career in tech program. It was something you had to, like, specifically apply to get into, and the class was, like, 20 people tops. It was a very small class. I think 2, 4, 6... I think there actually might have been 12 of us. That sounds right. 12 or 14 of us. And so it was a fairly prestigious program. And we were the best in the state. I mean, we won our state championships for the type of robotics that we did, which was a non-mobile robot. It was a robotic arm programming sort of thing. I'll get back to the car later. We won gold. You also couldn't take this program as a freshman. It was sophomore, junior, senior. That's it. Douglas, when a country collapses from the outside, that's called being conquered. A country can only collapse from the inside. Incidentally, the previous Russian regime also collapsed from the inside. No, so we took home gold 2 years out of the 3 that I was a part of the program. We also took home, if I remember right, we took home bronze, and most of those years we took home silver. Okay, sorry. I don't think Edaville 11 is staying at the WWF permanently. I really would not expect that. I don't know where it's going to live eventually. I don't know if it's going back to Edaville. I don't know if it's going somewhere else. I don't know what the plan is for it long term. It's there. It's there for some kind of work. I cannot say what. It's there for some kind of work, and then whatever happens to it, happens to it. I don't know if it's sticking around any longer than it has to. Now, when I was a freshman, when I was at Cranston East, not the school with career in tech. When I was a sophomore, I transferred to Cranston West because I got into the program there. I got into robotics. And that year, we took home gold at the state championships. And I think we might have swept. We might have done gold, silver, bronze. I'm not sure. But I took home gold with my partner. We went to the national championships. We placed 5th, I think, or 4th in the nation. That was really cool. That's also one of only 2 times I've been to Kansas City. And doing it as a sophomore, my first year in the program, that was pretty good. It was terrible for my ego, but it was pretty good. I've also, I never share this story. I don't know why I don't toot my horn this way. I've got so many things to be egotistical about. As it turns out, I guess. So we went to nationals in Kansas City. We got 4th. I think it was 4th. Barely missed the podium. And I think that was, like, I remember the misinput because you programmed the robot arm and conveyor belt and sensors to sort out some blocks. That's what the thing was. That's what the challenge was. I remember I put in something, I had the robot return to its original position instead of where it was supposed to be, and it dropped a block off the side of the table. And I think the judges kind of gave us a pass for that, but we ended up getting 5th. Or 4th. So barely missed the podium. You know, I beat myself up over that, right? One of my friends transferred out of Cranston West last year and came to my school. Dude got bullied hard there. Cranston West, I did not really. It was a real cliquey school. It was not a very down to earth sort of place. I liked Cranston East a lot more. Hello, MK. But then my junior year, I don't remember what it was. I think I didn't compete. My junior year, I didn't compete in the championship at the state level. And or maybe I got bronze. I can't remember. I just remember silver. 2nd place went to what was basically, robotics club, career and tech program. It wasn't really a club. It was a more structured thing. We placed, I can't remember if we didn't get gold that year. I know we didn't get silver, but I got bronze if I competed, and my memory's a little fuzzy. I only remember that Mr. Spidell, my robotics teacher, was pissed because we almost lost the gold. I think that's what it might have been. Because we didn't sweep, because Davies was in 2nd place and they were right on our heels. I just remember him being very upset. Not like, Fletcher from Whiplash upset, not throwing desks at people, but he was not happy. And then my senior year, I think we swept. I think we took all 3. I got gold with my partner, Emilio, again. And we went to nationals in Kansas City a 2nd time. So that's the only other time I've been to Kansas City. And that time we placed 5th in the nation. And it ate me up even more that I screwed up that one thing the first time we were there, because we could have been on the podium. We could have been. I know it in my gut. There are a few, regrets that I have. I don't mean to get super philosophical off the cuff, but quick rundown. People talk about, if you could go back and change this or that. There's very, very little I would change. And I've talked about this before, even. There's very little I would change because I'm pretty happy where I am right now, and I feel like butterfly effect, if I messed with anything, I would screw everything up, right? Everything has to play out exactly the way it did for me to land Gloria. And the job I have, etc., etc. You guys, most of you already know my life story. So, wind it back. That's one of the things I would change. That is one of the things I would change. I would be a little less dumb, proofread my program a little bit more, and take home something on the podium, because that would be fantastic. And it really would not materially change my life. It would be just kind of cool to say that I did that. So, anywho, I was talking about robotics. Right, when we set the building on fire almost. So those mobile robots that I was talking about, I was not the smartest kid in the class. Even though I took gold 2 years out of the 3, I was not the smartest kid in the class. This dude, I think his name was Colin. Again, he he was a #1 overachiever. He was the dude who kept doing the pacer test after everyone was done. That's not a joke. He went for so long in the pacer test. I have like vivid memories of him going back and forth, and us all sitting on the bleachers. He managed to make it an honors class. I don't know what additional stuff that he did for that accolade, but he did it. Dude was real smart. I wonder what he's up to these days. I think his name was Colin. I know there was a Colin in our class, but I don't know if that was him. We did these mobile robots. Like I said, I got mine to work first. Very proud of that. Never gonna let that go. It's a happy memory. But everyone else eventually got theirs working. Later on down the line, we're still messing with these, though it must have been like within a couple of weeks, right? We were still messing with these. And we all put them away in cubbies. That I don't think they were locked, but they were like, this is, there's a cubby for each team. There are a bunch of teams in each grade level, yada yada. And I remember Collins was, if you're looking at them, top left of 2 rows of cubbies underneath the bench. One day, we are there. There's no Mr. Spidell. We've got no one watching over us. Lunatics running the asylum, like I said. And smoke starts pouring out of Colin's cubby. And we're all just like, uh-oh. That's not good. What had happened was, when we put the robots away, you disconnect the battery. Right? And the battery leads, just sort of sitting there, it had got pushed into the cubby, and the battery leads touched the wall of the cubby, which was metal, and shorted the battery. So it started smoking. And we're like, oh god, what do we do? And I remember, I'm pretty sure it was, again, Colin. I don't know if his name was Colin. I keep calling him Colin. Grabs the fire extinguisher. Like, only time in my life I've ever witnessed a fire extinguisher used with my own 2 eyes for a purpose that was not shenanigans. I don't know if I've witnessed it for shenanigans, but I don't want to rule that out. So he opens the thing, blasts the fire extinguisher in there, and then we go about our lives. Eventually that cubby was like taped up, because the stuff, the powder in the fire extinguisher is apparently super carcinogenic. So it was like a hazmat sort of problem. Like, we had to have people come in and remove the fire extinguisher powder. Yeah, that was when that robot got caught on fire. And again, that was on a day where we had nobody watching us. If you go back and watch ancient videos on my channel, there are some where I have a cardboard cutout of Darth Vader in the background. And that belonged to that professor, Mr. Spidell. And we were, like, the entire room had to be remodeled, and I think part of it was clearing out that. So, like, the entire room had to be totally stripped, emptied out, and he goes, like, I trust you to keep Darth Vader for me. This cardboard cutout of Darth Vader. And I was like, can do. And I put it right alongside Kirk and Spock, which still have those guys. They're not in the background of the videos anymore, but Kirk's over there and Spock's over there. Darth Vader went home to Mr. Spidell eventually. Also, one more story from robotics class before I get. I thought this was much smaller. That is huge. One more story from robotics class before I get before I go back to Car Talk. Ooh, and I got to talk about that. I listened to an episode of Car Talk today. I need like a digital download of every single Car Talk episode ever. Totally different aside, different problem. I need to make sure that my kids listen to Car Talk in the future. I had Gloria listen to a full episode. Okay, no, one more story from robotics class. We had a senior project. With Car Talk, Car Talk, the NPR show, it is so damn good. It's good on multiple levels. It is Train Street, do whatever you want to that thing, within reason. But Godspeed. Um, Car Talk is good on multiple levels. There's a video by Angela Collier on YouTube. I think she just has her name as her handle now, but she used to be A Collier Astro. Very, very cool YouTube personality. Hello, Orion. I think she's super great. She's also kind of based. Is like a physics lecturer or science person somewhere in Boston area. Yeah, saw that in my subs. Yeah, no, she makes some great content, like the scientific content and the non-scientific content. Absolutely love her. One of my favorite YouTubers right now. And she has a video about why Car Talk is the best science podcast or the best science show, right? Which I got 10 minutes into that video and I went, I can't not listen to some Car Talk right now. So I went and I found a episode that people had posted on YouTube, and I just, I listened to that instead. Absolutely wonderful show. Not only are the two personalities, Tom and Ray Magliozzi, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Not only are they absolutely hilarious, they've got some incredible contagious laughter and incredible chemistry, and it's just perfect. Not only are they super funny, they're also straight up geniuses. They have been diagnosing car problems for longer than anyone in our Discord server had been alive at that point, or has been alive, whatever. Tom and Ray Magliozzi, they go by Click and Clack. Is this two dudes talking? Honestly, though, they're just like two super Italian, super Boston guys. They are absolute geniuses. The show is just, if you're unfamiliar with the premise, the show is just people call up with their car problems, and these guys solve them live on air, basically. That's the entire conceit of the show. And they are really, really damn good at it. And they're always telling funny stories. They're always cracking jokes. Sometimes at each other, sometimes at and with the person on the phone. And they have, and that's the basic. That's the basic thing of the show. They were on air from, I think, like 1985-ish, like 1980s, I'm pretty sure, to 2012. One of the brothers passed away, and the other one still did like advertising and stuff, and they've been airing like best of, which is like remixed episodes almost. And yeah, not only do you learn stuff, like most of what I know about cars, I learned from Tom and Ray in that show. But not only do you learn about cars, it makes you, like, I think it makes a person more inquisitive, because they're always, like, trying to ask the right questions. It's an absolutely outstanding show. It's a show that's both peak entertaining and peak educational, right? That's sort of A Collier Astro's conceit. Yeah, no, tremendous. Actually, it would be kind of funny to do a playdate where we just like listen to one or two of the Car Talk episodes. That'd be a fun thing to do, or just put it in the background when we're playing Railroader or something. Ah, man, I love that show. Yeah. It's not hard to do with me. I watch Myron cook. Take over the projector at the business meeting on Tuesday night and just play Car Talk. Well, I don't need the projector. There's no video component. It's a radio show. But at the NEB&W at my old club in college, we had an overhead like PA system for, I think, for the dispatcher, right? Like you could call, there were phones at the yards, and you could call the dispatcher who was in the other room, and the dispatcher could respond over microphone, over the layout, like the voice of God. It was really cool. I noticed that the microphone just plugged into a headphone jack, so I unplugged that and plugged in my iPod at one point, and I was by myself at the model railroad blasting Boston, running Trainz. Over like the ceiling speakers, like I'm in a supermarket. Anyway, I did say one more robotics story. I got distracted with car talk. What was the one more robotics story? It's such a dude. Yeah, the band Boston. Honestly, that's my favorite band. Not my favorite single performer, that's Bruce Springsteen. My favorite band is Boston. I've seen them 3 times. I've only seen Springsteen once. His tickets are very expensive. It's more than a feeling. I played I broke out their debut album on vinyl for one of Gloria's friends the other day, which is the same friend that's going to be visiting us this evening. She's really cool. I want this grass. Did I see Boston before Brad Delp passed? I don't think so. When did he pass away? No, I did not. I did not see Boston with Brad Delp, which is disappointing, but, what are you going to do? Robotics, though. So, those of you who know I like airships are going to love this story. Because this is the time I tried to make a remote control one. We had senior projects. They were supposed to last basically most of the year, right? Like, you picked out your project earlier in the year, and listen, we only do derailed conversations here. I'm supposed to be building a Trainz route. Oh no, airships. God hates a coward. For those who haven't seen that video, give it a watch. So you pick out your topic at the beginning of the year, and I sat down with my buddy Emilio, who was like my best friend at that point. Now I don't even talk to him. Such is how the world changes. And he and I agreed we should try to build a remote control lighter than airship. A remote control airship. And so I said, okay, let's do it. And we built a proof of concept, which was like, it's okay, Dean, the rest of it doesn't help. We built one that was about yay big, like the fish I catch on a daily basis. About yay big, maybe a little bit bigger. And about this big around, out of balsa wood, because I had some experience building balsa wood. I made a balsa wood bridge when I was in like 7th grade or whatever, as every aspiring engineering student does. Kept that for a long time, the bridge. And it was a working proof of concept. I wired it up with the smallest gauge wire you've ever seen. These tiny, tiny servos, which are supposed to be for aircraft. And, these things were like 3 grams. I might still have some of them, just like in a box somewhere. But we got a working remote control airship. It couldn't fly because it didn't have the volume. But proof of concept, right? The whole frame was there. It was super light. The little controller in the little gondola, a pair of like 4 motors, little tiny aircraft motors, and little servos controlling rudders and elevators. No way to control buoyancy, but it was whatever. It was never really going to work anyway, looking back. I'm convinced that it could have flown, but that didn't mean it would have worked. Not the little one, though. The big one. We finished the little one as a proof of concept. The big one, that was where we would put our money where our mouth was. Now, my partner was already getting bored of this project at this point. He was just trying, senior year, everyone was trying to coast, right? He's skipping class to play Terraria. And all right, we did another block here. I honestly don't know what to do next. Like everything else is going to take brain power, and I don't have that. I'm trying to tell a story. Oh, hell yeah. The Goodyear, they're not even blimps anymore. And this isn't me, like, I don't want to be snippy about it. I'm not trying to correct you, right? I'm not trying to be rude and correct you. I'm trying to tell you this because it's really cool, okay? The Goodyear company renewed its partnership with Zeppelin. Yes, that Zeppelin. The German one. Um, they were the ones built, like, Goodyear Zeppelin company, the same people that built the Comet, the train set, the only train they ever built. Coolest goddamn thing on the New Haven. Um, bar is kind of low. But they renewed their partnership and they built the new Goodyear blimps. Aren't blimps, they are Zeppelins. They are Zeppelin NTs. They're semi-rigid airships. They have an internal skeletal structure. They're not just a big balloon. It's so cool to me. Uh, they're filled with hydrogen. They're not filled with hydrogen. They're filled with helium. They're fine. They're not going to explode and fall down. Yeah, so it is. It is like, by every measure that counts, a Zeppelin, and I can't express how cool that is. But we decided, okay, we've made our proof of concept. Now we need to make one that works. So we started work on what we called the Andromeda. We gave them names. I think it was the Andromeda was the big one. And it was 9 feet long. It was this 9-foot long balsa wood thing with wires holding like the sections together for tension, because I wasn't going to build truss work out of balsa wood. It would have been too much balsa wood. Um, uh, and we had it built on like Lego stanchions because that was the only way we could get the elevation right. I wish I had photos. I might somewhere. This 9-foot long thing. Same controller, same motors, same servos. That all worked. It all worked. It was a tremendous skeleton. It took up like 2 work tables. We took up so much space in that classroom. And the remote control stuff all worked. The problem is we couldn't get a gas bag. And it was like my partner's duty, it was Emilio's duty to figure out how to make a sealed bag that would fill that space. It was, 3 foot by 3 foot or so, 2 sections that we were going to fill with helium, and I even bought the tank of helium. I ended up returning it. And we just couldn't get it to seal right. We tried and we tried and we tried, and eventually he gave up, and I was like, I can't do this by myself. So whatever, we have a giant skeletal structure. Couldn't fly. We ended up, everyone from the class wrote out a little note on a piece of paper, and we hung it from the skeletal structure of the Andromeda, and we hung that from the ceiling in that classroom. And last time I was there, which was several years after I graduated high school, it was still there. And that was awesome. It was this tremendous thing hanging above the classroom. Sorry, I got a little carried away there. Yeah, no, you're damn right, that rules. So, I really enjoyed that class. I really enjoyed building that Zeppelin. If I have any photos, I will post, like, if I come across any photos at some point, I will post them. I don't think I have photos. I don't know if I do. They might have been on a phone I no longer have, and I never transferred them off onto this computer. Which, shame on me, right? I lost a piece of my own history. But at least I've got the memories until I die. So, okay. I can fetter on about the car as much as I want. You know what we need over here? We need to work on the street grid here. I need to know what streets are on the other side of this. And there are not going to be many. Okay? There are not going to be many. We're probably just going to have... if the skeleton still exists, I will be astonished and flabbergasted and, like, honest to God, honored. Like, I would be amazed if Spidell still has that skeleton. It would make me incredibly happy. but I doubt it. Right? I doubt it. It was a balsa wood frame. It was already sagging the last time I saw it. It was not really that long for this world. Um, yeah, no, I wouldn't say I'm into Daughtry, but I definitely respect them. I enjoy their music. Uh, it's one of those people that if they came around a concert, I would just sort of say, "Oh, that's neat." Um, I don't know enough of their music or enough about the band, but yeah, no, I was the person you were talking to about it. I was one of their songs came on my iPod the other day. I wish I could remember which one it was. I've got one album of theirs. In fact, I can let me. Where's my iTunes? Artist. Sort by artist. Daughtry, which is going to be up here. I remember when Daughtry was the last reveal on one of the seasons of The Masked Singer. The Masked Singer. Daughtry. Sorry, no, I have two albums. I have their self-titled album and I have Leave This Town. Uh, and I think Crashed is what I said was my favorite song. That's the one that I remember when I think of Daughtry. Um, I can't remember what came on the other day. Uh, so, Lord Time, who is president in the world? God knows. I don't even. I haven't gotten that far into politics with this, and honestly, I don't know if or when I will have the opportunity to. There are things that I need to write long before I get to this, and one of those is to come back to it: the Iron Horseman, the motion picture, the novel. So we have the 10th anniversary of the Iron Horseman Chronicles coming up, uh, which is less than a month away. There are three things, originally four, but four is not possible. There are three things I want to do for that. One, I want to release all of the scripts that we ever wrote to the public. At least make them accessible. At least make it so that everyone can read them, including season 3, which never happened. That's the easiest thing to do. The second thing to do, actually this is probably the easiest thing to do, there is a quote-unquote lost episode. There is an episode of the Iron Horseman Chronicles that is on YouTube, that is finished except for some special effects. It's unlisted. It's on the Iron Horseman Chronicles YouTube channel. It is not listed. I would like to make that publicly viewable. It was going to be the thing after To Rule the World, and of course To Rule the World never came out, so we didn't do that. I watched one of the IHC episodes and oh dear. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We all foam down here. And embrace your inner cringe, right? I made a Talking Trainz series. I was really happy to making Talking Trainz series, and I still write lore for it occasionally. So I would like to release the lost episode, which is called A Christmas Call. It was going to be our Christmas special. Didn't I show you some of the IHC scripts? No. You were. That was the stuff I made. That was the stuff I did for the 3/4 of an Idiot show. Kill the part that cringes. Yeah, exactly. Do what you want. Do what makes you happy, right? You can. I mean, it's totally fair to admit that something is cringe. I admit that it's cringe. I did cringe stuff. In some ways, making the Iron Horseman Chronicles was a guilty pleasure, and in some ways it still is. But like, that doesn't mean I regret doing it, and that doesn't mean I feel bad about doing it. Like, I still go, ooh, like, oh man, some of the voice work on there is not good. The editing is atrocious because I am not an editor, and it's got plenty of other problems. I'm happy with the writing. I'll always be pretty happy with the writing. That was the thing that I was most proud of, and still want train waifus. Oh, like Azur Lane, but trains. I don't know. I mean, kill the part that cringes, I guess. Fair is fair, right? I can't in one breath be cringe, and in the other breath decry Azur Lane. Really. I feel like it might foster some unhealthy relationships with women, but you know, nothing's perfect. Could have aired Shell Shock. Yeah, I mean, could have made Shell Shock. Let's see, replace with selected asset. That's what I want to do. I want that right there. So yeah, this road is going to be here, and I think eventually I'll just have it turn into this one. Uh, yeah. So I want to release the Christmas episode. I want to release the scripts, and I want to release the first part, or at least a first draft of the first part of um, Iron Horseman, the motion picture, the novel, or the Iron Horseman Chronicles, the motion picture, the novel, which is the book that I've been trying to write. We were eventually, like, the plan was to make all of the regular show episodes and then a feature to cap it off, among other things. And one of those, the first one was going to be just the Iron Horseman Chronicles, the motion picture, and it was going to be a a movie set 50 years after the beginning of the Iron Horseman Chronicles. It's set in 2003 instead of 1953. That's 50 years. And Cole is woken up from dormancy, and he's like, "Where are all my friends? Where is Katie?" And he sort of goes on an adventure, a quest, if you will. Um, that's all I can really say about that. Um, I'm working on it. The first part is mostly done, and I was presenting it at coffee shops. Um, the thing we're supposed to do monthly, but we can barely get to do anymore because we don't have a ton of people that write and are available on Monday nights. If you write, or if you do anything at all creative, like if you make videos or whatever, even if it's something simple like a rail fanning video, you're totally welcome to come to coffee shop first Monday night of the month. There may be one this coming Monday because the last one got postponed. I am not going to be here because I am going out to see the new Wes Anderson movie. But yeah, like, if you do anything like multimedia creative related, feel free. I think we proofed a couple of videos that ended up on the WWF channel in coffee shops. We've proofed people's projects, like school projects, I think. And, you get like 10 minutes of video or 5 pages of writing, and you go. I saw that there was a microlog. I didn't see what it was, or I didn't watch it. I know it was SP related. And it's just like a good time. You get to share your thing, and then people get to comment on it if they want. Ooh, Kaiser made a piece that would complement yours. That's neat. And this is going to be backwards. 100% chance. Damn it! I hate it when I'm right. Okay. Also backwards. Still backwards. So, yeah, strip mall. Strip mall's got some stuff around it. I think I'm going to eliminate this road past here. I think I'm going to eliminate it. I think I'm going to make it a dirt road. Or maybe a gravel road. But yeah, I want to get rid of it. Give me this. Oh, I need this. Yeah, there we go. I'm looking forward to everything Century of Steam. And I keep hitting insert spline point. That's not what I want. There, that's what I want. Okay. Okay. Where's my gravel road? I've been enjoying not Railroads Online. I've been enjoying seeing all the drama. Not that I really should. Not good for anyone's health, but there's plenty of Railroads Online drama to go around, I guess. People are sort of starting to realize that the game has been abandoned, effectively. And it sucks, because that game had a lot of damn promise. But it is what it is. I will comment on it no further. At least not right now. We've got opinions, man. You know, in the words of King. Hold on, I need to look at. In the words of Sarah Bareilles, you've got opinions, man. We're all entitled to them. Yeah. So it is what it is. It's a shame. I had a lot of fun in that game. Had about as much as fun as I think I could. And I'm glad for that. I'm glad for the joy that it brought me and the other horsemen who played along with us in our Railroader adventure, or Railroads Online adventure. What's up, baby? But yeah, I feel like the railroad building stuff I am looking forward to in a game that is not that one. Hi, baby. I love you. You don't have a soda to bring me.
I don't.
Big bummer. Big sad. I'll get more sodas next week. Or I'll have more sodas for next week. Yeah, I'm looking forward to everything Century of Steam. Yeah, and it's like, it's a bummer because there's nothing else that scratches the itch of laying track, right? Like, that's the thing that it has that nothing else currently has. Railroader, you can't do it. Derail Valley, you can't do it. And those are like the two best train games on the market right now. And then the simulators, like Run 8, no. Trainz, yes. But Trainz is no game, and then Train Sim World, no. And then Train Simulator or whatever. Classic, whatever it's called. Yes, asterisk, like with difficulty, I think. Steam and Steel, the Roblox game, if that's what it's called, Roblox program. I'm not sure what the proper nomenclature is for something in Roblox like that. Seems very cool. And one of these days I would like to give it a try. There was a very, very brief period of time in my youth where I had Roblox, and I just have never really looked at it since. I know it's an opportunity for a lot of creativity. I'm not going to diss it. I'm not even going to think about it. I know it gets a lot of flack for being enjoyed by small children, which is why things get lots of flack. People, oh my god, I can't believe you play, insert whatever here, Roblox, Fortnite. It was Minecraft once. Never forget. The game that's #1 on my list. Honestly, favorite game. Used to be the, oh my god, I can't believe you play Minecraft. And yeah, it's just your opinion, man. Don't embrace the cringe, right? Like, don't let people tell you what is and isn't cool, like, for you to enjoy, right? I mean, there are limits there. There are things that exist that are illegal. But I wouldn't really call that cringe. I just don't want to put a blanket statement down and say, like, yeah, do whatever. And, to go back to John Boyce, I don't want you going to your parents and saying, Ellis said that Coke is great, I should do Coke. No. I'm not making a 20-minute ad for cocaine. For those who don't know what the hell I'm talking about, the pretty good episode 3, I think it is, on Lonnie Smith, I think is Gloria's favorite piece of John Boy's content, and it's pretty damn good. So, exactly, do school, stay in drugs. Um, okay, well, I made some roads over here, and this is about as good as it's going to get, I think. And yeah, that means I can have a 4-point intersection down here and not rip my hair out. And we'll put some houses along this stretch here, I think. I really love the orchard, and I'm realizing I should have done more of these because these look genuinely great. Like, looking out this way looks great. If I just turn like that so that you can't see the edge of the world, yeah, solid. Um, okay. Now, what are our triangles? We've got this to work on. This is like our biggest, got to close this loop. Um, this area is a big fat question mark. I've got to work on that. This area, I don't know where to begin. It's going to be more row houses and stuff. It's going to be the same sort of headache. And honestly, it's going to be pretty small, I think, compared to some other places. And I'm tempted to like put some subdivisions over here, maybe some like modern-ish 50s subdivisions with windy roads and cul-de-sacs. That's what probably goes here. Integrated farmland city mix. That's probably what this is going to look like as we get down in this direction. I wouldn't be afraid to throw in a field like in the middle of these suburbs almost. Um, sort of where one is being overtaken by the other. Um, yeah, I've been focusing up on those areas for so long. I've lost the plot in a lot of these other sections, you know? Um, and like there are some things. What about a college? I did want to put a university right here. Which would have been the edge of town at one point, but now the town is like grown around it. Um, so I'm gonna have to figure out what buildings to put here. Obviously, I would. Obviously, I would be drawing a lot from RPI, but it's not on a hill, so I can't do that much. Where they exist in equilibrium would probably not be here. Is the problem? Like they exist in equilibrium out in Pan Am, right? Like Pan Am is not getting any bigger. Um, and they will exist in equilibrium out there. But in this area, so that's a concept to come back to later, but in this area, specifically the Bellington and South Bellington area, the growth is happening. I mean, I'll go look at Lima. And I'll probably take some stuff from this too, because, yeah, the issue with Lima is it doesn't have... Okay, well, there's the metropolitan core, actually. Let me see... They got a giant roundabout in the middle of town. What do the biggest buildings look like? Because this is actually a pretty good size. If maybe a little bit smaller than what I'm aiming for in terms of a metropolitan downtown. Although, let me get out from behind the trees of this roundabout. Yeah, no, this is... I mean, Lima today, right? Lima today has reached an equilibrium. But this would be Lima of 50 years ago. And I would bet... And let me look at some of these. I mean, some of these houses are definitely older than that. There's a lot of century homes around here at a glance. But I look up to, like, the northern portion. Oh, there's no street view here. And a lot of it looks new enough that it would have come in this era. And this makes sense if you look at the town line. And let me show what I'm meaning here. I'm trying to divine like the history of Lima, Ohio from looking at a map. Actually, let's do this. No, I don't care about that right now. How far back can we go? Let's go 1956. Let's see what it looks like in 1956. Because that's a lot of railroads. And there's a giant refinery there, and lime and stone company. So the area up here, and we can compare this to now, right? What I'm looking at is this area up here. And you can see that in the 50s, you're building out these neighborhoods at a rapid pace. You know, look at all that under construction area. It's not even that much, but it's plenty. You've got more up here. I don't know what that is. Oh, that's some sort of factory. And yeah, look at that. I don't want to get distracted by the railroad infrastructure, but I don't think we can have one of these diversions and not take a moment to look, right? The refinery up here is insane. It's humongous. I'm going to have to take notes about that, honestly. That too. Whatever's going on down here. Oh, what did that say? Something. But yeah, if we look around this area, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if some parts of Lima have shrunk. But it's relatively rare to see something get reclaimed by farms. You just start to lose a lot of houses. So if we look up here, like this area is what we were looking at, right? Like, is that 309 highway? No, but you can see this still. And this area right up here, right past, there's that grain elevator. Is the elevator still there? Yes, it is, right about here. Not the same building by the looks, but the same thing. You get the mall, which is outside of the town limits. It's kind of funny. I'm sure there's no tax incentive for that to happen. But you still had stuff being built out. And this, like these roads here, you can actually see getting built out right here. This West Northern Avenue and Birch or Burke Avenue, however you want to pronounce that. This whole section is under construction. So it actually, now, you know, come to think about it, we should have a section that is very clearly that is very clearly the farms are losing ground. And I don't know if it would be up here against the university. Maybe it would. Maybe this was an Aggie school. Probably, right? So I should take some cues from the University of Rhode Island more than RPI. But this, I think I'm just going to throw down some gravel roads so I remember. Hopefully. Let's grab gravel. This area is going to be very much, say it with me now, under construction. Sounds a lot like Maine. Yeah, it probably is. I mean, tale as old as time. I knew the PRR was there. I don't know too much else about Lima, other than they built Berks that the B&M hated. So I'm just gonna, you know, do that. And so we will have this area be like visibly, rapidly under construction. Actually, it might be over here. It might best be over here, closer to the tracks. Oh, that doesn't pop very well. Lafayette, what is your problem, buddy? Who are you growling at? Neighbor's dog? Growling at? There's nobody there. Probably either a stray cat, or wait, no, that might have been Issa. Okay. So yeah, doing more road network is something that I have to focus on. But like I've said, we've got triangles to work on, right? we've got this area in here, which is going to look pretty similar to the other side of the tracks. In fact, we might even see the return of Spline House. We've got that area back there a little bit, not too much. I can't be that ambitious in that neighborhood yet. And this area back here. Now, you folks are great with ideas, so you're welcome to throw me some. Oh, so it's I really appreciate all the chatter in the chat. You really make it feel like there's more than 5 people here. We've had some good turnouts, but today is not one of them. Everyone's probably at the beach. I could see going to the beach today. It's one of those days. So, I don't really want to work at the graveyard. I need to figure out what goes here. We have this building. What is this building, and why is it here? I was thinking mansion, but this is probably a school, or was a school, right? I'm gonna be at the beach here soon, yeah, and I wouldn't blame you for a second. Let's just scoot this right up against here. Drip castles are cool. This is the baseball academy. I don't know what to say. School turned YMCA. Oh yeah, YMCA would be a good one. I hear it's fun to stay there. We can have an Aldi's grocery store. We got an Amy Winehouse. I feel like that's definitely, I've come across that before. Fairground. I'm going to do a carnival at some point. We are going to do an amusement park somewhere. And in fact, out on the Mansfield Branch Railroad would be a good place for an amusement park because they had the interurban. It would have been a trolley park. Yes, happy Pride Month. The YMCA and Hot to Go are, you know, they should be on your playlist. Okay. I really don't know what to do here. This is definitely like a, yeah, this is definitely a rail-served industry. We can't do that. You got a Barnes and Noble. Maybe like a small field back here. Honestly, I've run out of things to put here. I don't know what to put in this area. Roller coaster be on the field, yeah. I don't want to do this. This is not the place for an amusement park, and we've done plenty of gimmicky stuff on this side of town anyway, already. It's just a question of what do I want to put back here, and I don't want to block it out. I feel like we have plenty of blocks of suburbs here. Maybe this would be getting built into. But what would it be in the meantime? This right here screams to me rail-served industry too. For the first time, I want something that is not a rail-served industry, and we are only finding rail-served industries. The IRM stuff and the trolley stuff, that isn't going to help us. What do we put here? Let's see. Let's see. If I were a city planner, what would I put here? The problem is, city planners don't ever decide these things. They just sort of happen, right? So, this area grew up. This is not the oldest part of town. The oldest part of town is around here and around here. So, like this block. You've got the cement plant, which would have maybe been one of the first industries in this area. And some of these farms here. some suburbs area looking thing, some office buildings. Office buildings just don't go in this neck of the woods. It's too old and not metropolitan enough. We're going to have all the commercial stuff down here because the commerce in this region all gravitated here in the 20s. With the realignment of the railroad and everything. This is going to be our commercial center. This area of town, it's not necessarily older than that, but it's not a commercial center. In fact, it's not even a place where I'm going to put it's not even a place where I'm going to put shops, right? Like maybe a couple of things out along this road here, like really old stuff. Like you know, if we had a building that... Oh, but I said no more gimmicky stuff in this area. Oh, what about a drive-in, though? We need a drive-in somewhere. This isn't the place. We need the drive-in to go, like, over here. In what used to be a field. We absolutely need a drive-in. We got a billboard for one. Sure it's filled. Yeah. Actually, Dean, it was you guys losing your drive-in that made me realize that I needed one. SAP Drive-In Movie Theater. We got a projection booth. We got the screen. Yeah, there we go. Van Wert, Ohio still has a drive-in. We've still got one. It's up north of Woonsocket area on 146. It's pretty cool. I love going to the drive-in because you can get 5 or 6 people, you know, depending on the car, right? Squeeze a whole bunch of people in there, right? And it is just a flat rate for the car. Yeah, they aren't gone, just endangered. Endangered is a good way to put it. Yeah, I don't know how big a drive-in's supposed to be. I should go measure the one in question. I wonder if somebody should make the milk jug building. That would be something perfect to put along that road over there. Maybe we need a gas station over there. I want to put this up on a hill a little bit. But I do need to measure out a drive-in. So we'll just have like a one-screen drive-in. Nothing too crazy. But yeah, having the entrance right off the thing. Where's the sign? There's the sign. There we go. That's what we need. Moonshine's Drive-In Theater. Would you look at that? We also need to figure this out here. That's a problem for later. I said about a drive-in. What did I want to put down here? I just had it. Oh, we do need a gas station. So let's try to fill this area in with something. Not the gasworks. BP derelict gas station. Yeah, honestly, this is a pretty lonely area. I could see a derelict gas station even in this era. This is the back end of town. Maybe I'll put this all the way towards the edge. Well, there's a little hill there. That's not a great spot for a gas station. Down here will do. Widget works, yeah. I wonder what this is. This is like a nice little garage with a door on both ends. I wonder what that's for. This seems like something that would go with this, actually. Something I could do here. I did hear about the Heartland Flyer. That's very frustrating. I was working with and talking with a lot of Amtrak folks over the course of this week, and it was just like yeah, it's really going to be a just try to keep the lights on. Try to keep running everything we have as long as we can. You know, we don't know when we're going to get a break. And it's, you know, I don't need to go into detail on how frustrating that is. We've got, you know, can't get anywhere in this country unless you have a giant automobile. And I don't, you know, I don't really begrudge people. Unlike a lot of urbanists, I feel like I don't really hold too strong of opinions about having a car. Even, I mean, I don't want to straw man here. There are plenty of very valid frustrations with the sheer size of the American automobile. Um, uh, but like, you know, we can do better than this. Like, yeah, no kidding, it costs money. Everything that serves the public good costs money. But you gotta buck up and pay for it. I mean, it's, all things considered, it's not that expensive. We spend way more money on way more frivolous crap in this country than on a train service that, you know, God forbid people have a way to get places. And even if not that many people use it, someone's gonna. And even if not that many people use it on a regular basis, if you're ever in a bind and you need to get somewhere without a car, you'll be happy that there's other options. When I had, you know, we've been doing stuff at I pay for Amtrak and I'm not in an Amtrak served community. Not all of us can be. It's a shame. I wish we had a lot more Amtrak served communities out there. There are plenty of cities that are much too large to not have another way to get from point A to point B. And even when we don't have that, even when we are not the immediate beneficiaries of something like an Amtrak train, we benefit. A rising tide lifts all boats, and I don't think you all need me to tell you that. Not only that, even at a much more basic level, better train service gets cars off the road, makes traffic better for the people that do still drive or do still have to drive even. And when you give people an alternative to getting behind the wheel, that means the folks that should not be behind the wheel get a choice, get an option. The elderly, people that just straight up can't drive for the life of them, people with poor eyesight, people with various other medical issues that might make getting behind the wheel of a car a difficult and dangerous proposition, not just for them, but for everyone else. And sure, you have to, in theory, rely on people to make that choice. I mean, if we had better public transit, you could move forward with a plan to recertify drivers at a certain age, and if they don't pass that test, then you take their license away because they're not safe to be out on the road. I mean, I can think off the top of my head of multiple stories of elderly folks getting on the highway the wrong way, just to throw an anecdote in there. And these are crash reports that I've had to deal with. I want to throw down like a bunch of shotgun houses back here. I think this is what I want to do. You have to, in theory, you may have to rely on people to make that choice. You may have to rely on people to make that choice. At least in the current situation, you would. But if they have that choice, at least they could make that choice. Giving people an option, giving people an out, means that you can create a larger barrier of entry to getting behind the wheel of a car, to getting a driver's license. you can get people who should not be on the road off the road. Right now, there really isn't much of a choice, you know, especially if you're like you or Ryan in a community that isn't served by Amtrak. I would imagine that your public transportation is not great overall. I know Amtrak is just one facet of a very large and interconnected system that we wish we could have. At least I hope we're all on the same page about that, because we're here watching me build a route in a railroad simulator. Train good. We like Train. Uh, you know, the alternative is, well, people have to get behind the wheel, or they have to get a ride share, which is very expensive and not very efficient, or they have to have folks drive them around. Kind of roughly 10,000 people, we don't even have public buses. And I think 10,000 people, not a very large town, but even still, it feels like it ought to be over the threshold to get from one end to the other on something that isn't a car. It might be nice, and unfortunately, not everyone can ride a bicycle either. Train and plain good, car bad. I'm not sure I'm with you on the plain good thing. I'm not even totally sure about car bad sometimes. But I know that you have to say plain good because of your job. So, you know, I won't hold that against you. Sadly, there are it's tough to get a flight from one end of a 10,000 person town to the other, but you know, if you have enough crop dusters in the neighborhood, you might still be able to get it. Yeah. No, I would love it if getting a license took some effort, right? You know, you kind of need to say carbon because of your job, don't you, Alice? No, I do. You know, I've done plenty of. You know, I'm doing transit projects right now. In theory, sure. But now I do plenty of like road diet projects. You know, knocking out a couple lanes because you know, playing a train blimp and Volvo good. Yeah, okay. You know what? You've found my weakness. Um, uh, like, sure, I mean, yeah, if all the cars disappeared, I would probably be out of a job, but that's not going to happen. And also, I can do things that aren't car infrastructure, or at least car-specific infrastructure. Um, at least I'd like to think that I could. Yes, my help on these projects that I have mentioned has been like, how will it affect the cars? But, you know, whatever, the greater good and all that jazz. Sometimes you get crack a couple eggs or whatever, and sometimes that egg is my job. And yeah, you'd still need public right away, etc., etc. You know, don't need to go down that rabbit hole too far. It doesn't really, you know. We can meme all we like. No, so I would love for there to be a barrier of entry to getting a license higher than what there is right now. And I would love it if you had to recertify every, let's say 10 years. Let's say 10 years. Let's I feel like I could say a smaller number than that, but 10 years seems like maybe a reasonable middle ground, right? You have to take your driver's test every 10 years. If you've got to inspect your car every 2 years, you should be able to. It shouldn't be. And I know some states don't do that, but I think it's a good thing. I don't really want someone else's wheels falling off while I'm driving next to them. That's just me. And, you know, if you've got to inspect your car every 2 years, maybe inspect your own ability to get behind the wheel of a car every 10. Because if we can do that, then we don't have to have awkward conversations with grandparents where we say, like, hey, listen, we have to take your keys away because you're going to kill somebody. And they pitch a fit. You know, it's, sorry, you didn't pass your driver's test. And they go, oh, okay. And then, like, ideally, there's still another way for them to get to CVS and pick up their prescription, right? That's what we don't have, you know? You can't make getting behind the wheel more difficult if you're going to kick people out of the only way that they have reasonably to get anywhere at all. Um, I don't think you can do one without the other. I think you could absolutely have a decent public transit system and then not update your laws around licensure, but yeah, you're too safe. Um, like you could do that in theory. Like there's no reason that has to follow it. But if you want better, like if you want any sort of restriction on crazy people getting behind the wheel of a car, and I'm using crazy as a pretty big catch-all here. I'm including your sweet 92-year-old grandparent or great grandparent that just really just straight up can't see anymore and is fully liable to run over somebody in the Target parking lot and not notice. Uh, like, uh, like the people that you would see driving around and go, oh my God, that person's crazy, without, considering the fact that they are performing to the best of their ability and their ability is just not very good. So, in order to get people off the road, liable to do it out of spite. Yeah, well, I mean, Black Friday is pretty nuts. That person took the last Xbox. Get him. Do not commit vehicular manslaughter. This is not an endorsement of vehicular manslaughter outside of the Halo games. So, nearly 100 when she passed 2 to 3 years ago. She drove until 81. Volunteers surrendered her right to drive because of eyesight. Many such cases. And it's good that she recognized that it was a problem and volunteered it. I mean, I assume she probably had to be talked into it a little bit, but that it wasn't a fight, right? Not everyone gets that luxury. My grandfather was driving until the day he physically could not get behind the wheel anymore, and he wasn't a terrible driver, but I know that time takes a toll, and he was about the same age as your great grandmother when he passed. Or sorry, no, you said 100. He was 94. So, everything's interconnected. Don't let people bamboozle you into thinking that we can't have a transportation system or whatever. We totally can. We've like all things considered, not that expensive. And I know the railroads own everything. Like the railroad is the railroad in this country grew up around a tribunal. Oh man. The railroad in this country grew up around the country, or the country grew up around the railroad, depending on how you want to measure it. And so they kind of have a blank check and a note that says, I can do what I want. But maybe consider if we really truly and don't get me started on how much we spend on the defense industry, and that just goes into black holes. Not that I think the drone disguised as a bird that's outside my house listening to me right now is a problem, mind you. But we have the money. We can put trains wherever we want. If we really decided that was the right thing to do. And you know what? If it really comes down to it, if we feel like we don't, maybe just tax the class 1s a little more. I'm sure they'll do okay. Have you seen the profits? Have you seen the earnings that NS posts and stuff? They're doing fine. The rail industry as a whole is not doing fine because we subsidize the dick out of the interstate highway system, and we don't get a return on that, practically speaking. Yeah, we have gas taxes and there are some places with tolls, but the people that do the most damage to the roads like by an order of multiple magnitudes, is trucks, semi-trucks. And it's not like they're doing it on purpose. Heavy things just have an exponential impact on pavement damage. You know, hold on, pavement damage by vehicle type. That's not how you spell type. Let me find the chart. So, oh yeah, this is the fat man on a freakishly heavy bicycle chart. Oh yeah, all right. For those of you that have not seen this chart, not exactly this is what we talked about in like genuinely in school, because when you do pavement design, and this isn't some woke BS, bear with me, right? When I was in classes in college, you have to design pavement. Like, you don't just lay down some gravel and then pour asphalt on top of it and call it good, right? You have to say, we want it to last for this long without major repaving work, and it needs to support this amount of vehicles and this type of vehicles, right? And all that goes into this humongous equation, this gigantic equation, and it spits out like a depth of pavement, right? Or like a certain grade of pavement. Actually, no, scratch that. The equation spits out how long the pavement's going to survive. You put in all the details about the pavement, about the subgrade, about what kind of asphalt or concrete you're using, and then about the volume of traffic, the average vehicle weight, etc. Oh, I didn't scroll up on this chart, did I? Let's see the whole chart. No? Oh, there's the whole chart. So, if a 1 is an average 4,000-pound car, if that's what you're putting in as a factor, you know, the level of damage is 1. You go up in weight, and it scales a little bit. You know, a Chevy Tahoe is an extra ton or so, and it's doing about 3.5 times as much damage. And, you know, this is what gets affected in the equation. This affects, like, these aren't just pulled out of nowhere. This affects your pavement lifetime. Like this level of damage, what does it correspond to? It corresponds to how long until you have to repave that road. Until it's so beat up and knackered that it's virtually impassable, right? And you obviously you want to repave it before it gets to that point. You want to do work on it before it gets to that point. But this is like okay, how long until it's donezo? And you get a semi, right? You get an 18,000-pound semi, which even like as far as loaded weight, that doesn't feel heavy to me. I feel like you could get a lot more weight in a semi-truck than 9 tons. People who know trucks can correct me, but even this, which strikes me as a relatively small truck, like as far as semi-trucks go, I know, maybe I'm just thinking about open TTD too much. 410 times as much damage as the average car. You could have one of these, or you could have 400 cars on your road, and that would do the same amount of damage. So, we subsidize the hell out of these roads, and, like, gas taxes exist, but you drive, you know, you put 20 gallons of gas in your car, or the big rig puts 20 gallons of gas in their vehicle, which I know they expend more, they're less efficient, but even still, I don't think they're expending 400 times as much. So, like, we, the average car driver, are subsidizing the existence of semi-trucks on our highways. You know, you got to get stuff where it needs to go, I guess, but goddamn. Recurring, yeah, well, yeah, for every truck there's 100,000 cars. Like, yeah, I mean, build for semi-standardized, kick the cars off the interstate highway network. Or, like, put them on trains, right? We do build for semis. We have to build for semis. Because otherwise the pavement would disintegrate. And, like, sure, your heavy vehicle percentage, your average heavy vehicle percentage is like 2%. So for every truck, for every heavy vehicle, and that includes garbage trucks, semis, you know, buses, there are about 50 cars. on average, 49 cars. So it's not, for every truck there's 100,000 cars, maybe in existence, but that passes a given stretch of road on a given day, on average, 50 cars to one truck. Bus, semi, garbage truck, box truck even. Sometimes heavy vehicles get stratified into semis and lighter heavy vehicles. But the point is, there are quite a few cars and quite a few semis, and the cars are subsidizing the hell out of the existence of the semis. I mean, we are with our tax dollars, like general taxes. And I don't know the breakdown of everything, but I would imagine that the gas tax really does not cover everything. Sometimes it covers major road projects, but road maintenance is tremendously expensive, like absurdly expensive. And I would know. And sure, rail projects are pretty expensive too, but I don't know how much easier we'd have it if we turn the WWF into a bike path. Well, probably pretty easy, because to go back to the chart, a bike is like 1/10,000th of a car in terms of road damage. You're going to have more damage from environmental factors at that point. And I will say, I can't discount environmental factors. Lots of roads are going to suffer more in areas where you have freeze-thaw cycles, but that's still, what's the word? That's still exacerbated by the existence of large trucks. And again, I'm not saying we should abolish large trucks. I'm not even saying that, to go back to the meme we started on, train good, car bad. But, we do need trucks to get places, right? We should try to minimize them. We should try to build out rail infrastructure. We have the money to do it. If we're going to subsidize trucking this hard, we should subsidize some rail work too. And sure, the class ones are great at getting at getting money out of municipalities and even the feds. But we got to try to make some of that back in some way. And some of that way is just by doing something that's cost effective, right? By doing something that is that gets a whole bunch of trucks off the road, and then we don't have to pay for road maintenance as much. Then we don't have to build out giant curbs in areas that trucks have to squeeze through, or giant curb cuts, big radius turns in intersections, which make things more dangerous for vehicles and for pedestrians. And just make things more difficult overall. Make the level of service at the intersection be lower because you have a greater distance from the stop bar to the other side of the intersection. One TFC terminal per 100 miles. One TFC terminal per, per 10,000 person town. A taco truck on every corner. I would love it, and I feel like most of us can get behind it too. But yeah, your level of service goes down. Sorry, I was getting into some real traffic engineering shtick. Your level of service goes down because it takes longer for vehicles to get across the intersection, so your all red time is longer after the signal drops to red before the next one turns green, because there are still cars in the intersection, which adds delay to every single person that uses the intersection. These things cascade. They're cascading problems. Trucks are, and you can't get around that, Pat. And that's the tyranny of it all. A truck, 1-to-1, is going to be better at moving a single carload of commodity, or less than carload of commodity, from industry A to industry B, pretty much no matter where they are. If all you're moving is single carloads, which is most freight, maybe not by volume, but a lot of freight. Obviously, the most freight is, intermodal and coal. But, trucks are really good at that. it's annoying because they're really good at that. Why are, like, so many of the things that are problematic in the world, yeah, by profit margin, absolutely. Um, uh, yeah, and but planes are faster, ships hold more cargo. It's also really tough to get a ship to, like, Denver. Um, if you can figure out how to get a you know a, a 300,000 ton container ship, that number just came out of nowhere. Uh, to pull it up to like DIA or Burnham, right? If you can figure out how to do that, you'll win some kind of Nobel Prize. There's no Nobel Prize in transportation, but they'll make one if you figure out how to do that efficiently. Um, and yeah, I mean that's kind of the problem. Yeah, airship sold. Um, that's kind of the problem with all the stuff that we do, right? We do things the way they are because they are efficient, and because they are efficient, or at least cost effective. Sorry, we do things the way they are because they are cost effective. Um, and that kind of just is, you know, you can't get around it. It is the people who control the way things go are concerned about their profit margins. That's how they got there, right? Like, that's the way the world works. Uh, yeah, I mean, and so we end up with, yeah, well, we're gonna extort the federal government. They're gonna build all these highways. And no, this was not a conspiracy, and I'm not saying this. I'm talking about it from the wrong perspective. It's not like trucking companies decided that they wanted to get, like, trucking companies did not sneak up on Dwight D. Eisenhower in a dark alley and say, like, we're gonna you know we're gonna come for you and your family if you don't build us highways. No, that's not what happened. Um, but what happened was the army decided to drive trucks across the country, and Eisenhower saw that and was like, "Damn, this sucks. We should have a way to get trucks across the country better." And and also the Soviet Union is doing trains, so we should do something different. Uh, like, so we built all these highways, and then we never really figured out how to charge people for using them in a way that wouldn't cause the public to riot. You know, uh, yeah, I know he was part of that convoy. That's how we saw that it sucked. Um, uh, like in a manner of speaking, like Route 66 went to his head, and said, "We're going to do terrible things to your family if you don't build some highways." Or was it Route 6? Did he cross the country on U.S. Route 6? I think that might have been what it was. Grand Army of the Republic Highway. Route 6 is what a terrible road. Goes from nowhere to nowhere, stopping at nowhere along the way. I live right on Route 6. And so do a bunch of my friends. Uh, so, anyway. 6 sounds right. Uh, the I think it was 6, because the panhandler dude that used to, like, hang out at the end of the highway ramp off of Route 6. I started calling him Ike because I didn't know his name, because Grand Army, the Republic Highway, because Eisenhower, etc. We like Ike. Um, so, yeah. I'm just going to put a little hut here. I think we could use a little hut. Um, ooh, it's breezy. We got a small police station. Oh, it's that one. Um, let's put this over here. This feels like like a rural post office. Oh, the small town post office. What was that? So, just sort of think about that. It's all food for thought, right? It's all food for thought. It is, when it comes time to be frustrated about something, figure out where the pros and cons are, because everyone's trying to sell you a story, and by some description, I'm no exception. Even if you don't do it intentionally, you do it. And that's why I'm caveating 6 ways from Sunday, right? Because I want to make it clear that nothing I say, certainly, and virtually nothing that can be said, and there it is again, can be said universally, explicitly, without caveats. Absolutely is the word that I'm looking for. I think having a motel out here next to the drive-in is the perfect place for a motel. This is proper, like, 50s right here. Although this ground is not flat, which is going to give me trouble. And of course, these guys are going to be able to watch the movies. Anyway. So, I may not be trying to sell you something. And I may not even necessarily be trying to convince you of anything, although, in some respects, I have to say I absolutely am. But I do have a certain point of view. And so does everyone. I can't begrudge anyone for having a certain point of view. I can't really begrudge anyone for thinking about anything in a way that aligns with the way that they see the world. Even if it leads to conflict, even if it leads to misunderstanding, even if it leads to, hell, no small degree of pain and suffering. Everyone has their own way to see the world. And in some respects, there is no wrong way. There are plenty of things that I think we all agree are objectively wrong. But objectivity is something that we made up. There is no objective truth in the world. At least I don't think there is. Maybe someday I'll die and I'll walk up to those pearly gates and St. Peter will say, hey, you got that wrong, buddy. There is an objective right and wrong. Because we've been judging you on the karma system from Fallout New Vegas from the moment you came out of the womb. And I will say, damn, I never figured that was going to be the case. I thought Bethesda came up with that. And he'll say, that's an Obsidian game, idiot, and then I'll go to hell. St. Peter just really hates Bethesda. St. Peter was one of the guys who, like, signed up for the premium Fallout 76 stuff and got screwed over and, like, didn't get the bag that he was promised, the, like, canvas bag. He got shortchanged by that, and he's been really salty about it ever since. Like, the angriest dude on the Bethesda, on the Fallout subreddit, is actually St. Peter. I mean, he's got nothing better to do. So, anyway. Oh, shoot, this was supposed to be rotated 90 degrees. The entrance is over here. So, I don't think there's necessarily any objective truth out there. Or at least, not objective truth, but objective morality. And, hell, I might be wrong at that. I'm going to act like I think there is, I'm still going to try to be a moral dude, and I think that if you need something else to tell you when to be moral, you got issues. Like, everyone has their own sense of morality, really. Everyone... It's tough to fathom, but I think everyone is pretty much always doing what they think is the right thing to do. Now, what I think is the right thing to do, and what you think is the right thing to do, and what they think is the right thing to do, might be very, very, very different. Not to go full Godwin's Law here, but if you know what that is, you know what I'm thinking about. everyone does the stuff that they can justify. Sometimes that justification is under pressure. You know? It's not in a vacuum. Sometimes we do stuff because it benefits us, and we justify that. We think we're doing the right thing, or at least the right thing for us in that moment. The right thing doesn't have to be a universal constant. And hell, it's not. I feel like it doesn't take me saying that to make it obvious that it's not. And we are way into the morality stuff, and I didn't get to talk about the car at all today. So much for this being a short episode. I still want to talk about the car. But, like, I find that something to remember when you're dealing with somebody who doesn't see things the same way you do. Everyone is doing what they think is right. It might not be right for their neighbor. It might not be right for the rest of the world. But it's what they think is right. You know? It might be objectively criminal, but they still think it's the right thing to do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. Right? You might think something is wrong, right? Like, objectively wrong, but if you are destitute and out on the street, and someone drops a $100 bill, you're going to grab that and you're going to pocket it, right? If they don't notice, you're going to grab that and you're going to pocket it. And that's not even reaching into criminal activity. I was thinking like robbing a convenience store, right? Stealing bread. You know, it's something that happens when people are starving. Is that the right thing to do? Legally, no. Like, morally, no, not really. By most stretches, because that's not their bread. But, like, if it's the choice between that and starve, they're going to make that choice. And they're going to say, this is the right thing for me to do. They're going to justify it. It's what you've got to do. You've got to justify it. You have to find a way. Everyone finds a way. And you might regret it later, but in the moment, you made a call. Anywho. We got a motel over here. Let's talk about the car. Let's talk about the car. Making a clip is unreasonably difficult. I just want to say that. So, I went to the WWNF many moons ago at this point. Several weeks ago. I think this might have been when I stayed with Mossy Mug was the first time that this came up. Yeah, it was. I have two cars for those who don't know. I have a 1994 Volvo 940 sedan, dark blue, special order, cloth seats, no sunroof. I love it to death. It belonged to my mom before it belonged to me. She had it since I was 2 years old. She was not the original owner, but she was close. She was owner number 2, I believe. And I'm going to lower this slightly. Yeah, she was owner number 2 of this car. Had it for 16 years or so, and then gave it to me. And I have cherished it. But it's kind of a piece of work. It doesn't have a ton of miles on it, but it sat for a long time while I was at college because of circumstances that are another story. And it's been, even before then, it was kind of getting to be a shop queen. It was not a spring chicken, right? Even when I received that car, which I was 17, which would mean that it was, let's see, 2013. I was, I'm pretty sure that's right. 2013. It was already certainly no longer a spring chicken. It had already had plenty of things replaced, and I was now responsible for it. I try not to drive it that much because I adore that car. It is a family heirloom to me. It is something where I show up to it at family parties, and people are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're still driving that car. I remember when your mom bought it." Blah blah blah. one of those things. So I don't really ever want to get rid of it. But I also don't really trust it that much. I don't like driving it long distances. I don't like driving it out of state. It's registered as an antique. So technically I shouldn't be doing that, legally speaking. Don't tell the cops. And yeah, that's as much as I can say about that car right now. So having been around a Volvo brick for my entire life, and needing a car that would become my new daily driver after my Volvo 850 crapped the bed, I decided to do what any sensible person would do, and I bought a 1993, so 1 year older than my mom's car, Volvo 240 wagon in black. And I love the sedan. It's a family heirloom. If I had to pick one car to keep, it would be the wagon. I adore that wagon. I have spent many, many miles behind the wheel of that car. I prefer to take it when we go to Maine, more than my own, more than the 940, more than any of my friends' cars. I drove it all the way out to Chicago once upon a time with Gloria in a spectacular road trip. I drove it to West Virginia to watch one of the other horsemen get married. I love that car. It's also a tremendous piece of work. That should come as no surprise. It has been, like, a couple of weeks before my last trip to the WWF, I gave it to my mechanic. And I said, hey, could you look at these few things, which were, it's leaking coolant from somewhere, I couldn't tell where. It's leaking brake fluid from one of the back wheels, I'm pretty sure. It needs an oil change. Oh, that wasn't one of the things. It just did need an oil change. My back light, my third brake light on the hatch is not working. And none of the lights on the hatch are working, actually. And damn Mossy Mug. And oh yeah, it doesn't start. So there was a long-standing issue with that car. Oh shoot. Oh shoot. Oh, when did I do this? Oh, damn it. I'm gonna have to... Ah, there we go. Okay, I gotta put in another spline point down here. Idiot. Long-standing problem with the ignition switch, where it wouldn't work. I could put the key in it, turn it to the second position, turn it to the third position, and well, it got worse as time went on. By the end, it was about 99 times out of 100. Nothing. A little click, that's it. So, what's a man to do? Well, I had my mechanic wire up an auxiliary thing, where as long as the key was in the second position, I could pop the hood and touch a wire to the battery terminal, and it would start right up. And I did that for years. And it was not the most fun thing in the world, but it was kind of entertaining, if nothing else. Saying, oh, let me pop the hood and start the car. No matter where we were, no matter what we were doing, no matter, who was around. I got plenty of like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need help with your car? And I would just touch the wire and go like, nah, I'm good. And I got some real funny looks from people. And I even had someone, at least once, one time that I can remember, someone come over to me and be like, what did I just see? Can you explain to me what's going on here with your car? And I was like, with pleasure. So, I love that car. So my mechanic started getting into it, but of course it's tough to get parts. The parts didn't come in on time, uh, and so it ended up staying there. For my trip to Maine, I drove the 940. For my trips to Pennsylvania, we borrowed Mew's car and drove out to Pennsylvania. For the trip to Pennsylvania, we borrowed Mew's car. For my site work yesterday and the day before, I drove the 940. And over the course of this period, I was getting phone calls from my mechanic, from Tony, the automotive demigod. Honest to goodness, love that man to death. He's a legend. He's a legend. And yeah, sometimes he doesn't always meet the deadlines, but really, really, the man doesn't let me down. He's done incredible work on that car. So, right after I gave it to him, I got a phone call. And this is the second time I've received a phone call from him starting with these exact words. Did you drive this here, or did you get it towed? And for the second time in a row, I answered, I drove it. And he goes, oh my God. No way. No, listen, there's all sorts of singed wires under here. Like, everything's touching, it's shorting. I don't know how you managed that. And I was like, I did. I started the car and I drove it over there. And he gets into it. He starts pulling it apart. He gets underneath the car. He goes, we're going to need to replace it. He calls me. Did you know your car was on fire? This was call number 2. Did you know your car was on fire? I said, no. No, I was never aware of my car being on fire. And he goes, wow. Because these wires underneath here, this part of your wiring harness that's just fused. Like, it's totally shorted. It was definitely burning at some point. Or at least it was smoldering. And I said, damn, alright. Well, that's kind of crazy. And it's like, yeah, alright, yeah, I'm going to get a piece of this wiring harness in. Don't worry, I think it'll solve your problems. And I said, okay, you know what? I trust you implicitly. And so he went and got this piece of wiring harness. Oh, it's just INT, isn't it? Oh, it's yarn something. Hold on. Yarn. And then he gets this piece of wiring harness, and this was like the day before I was set to go to Pennsylvania. And he's like, listen, I'm gonna see if this does it. I think it's gonna fix your problem. You'll be able to leave tomorrow. I was like, okay. And I texted him at like 10 at night. How's it going? Because I hadn't heard from him. How's it going? Let me see if I can get the text exactly. Any news? This was 9:49 p.m. His response, not good. So it wasn't charging right at that point, and the problem. So the ignition switch problem had deteriorated to the point where the car, one, didn't know if it was on or not, and B, was lighting up the dashboard when the key was not in the ignition. Hey, Mew. So I'm just talking about the Pennsylvania trip. Lighting up the dashboard when the key is not in the ignition, which, not supposed to do that. And so, Orion, you don't understand. This car would be totaled if I put, if it being totaled it costs more to do anything with than the car is worth, I wouldn't be able to put gas in the car, okay? Like, we're past that point. That's a ship long sailed. Oh, I need a yarn one because these are yarn roads. Oh, is this the exact intersection that I want? No. Okay, I don't have the, whatever, we'll deal with the bump here. Or maybe I could, well, it doesn't matter. Whatever, I'll leave it for now. Oh, wait, no, I don't. Because I don't want to leave it because it'll be very noticeable. So let's get, yeah. So it's bad, right? It's bad. So he texts me, not good. Not good, not charging right, all over the place. And I said, oh, well, appreciate you putting in the time to find that out. I'll go with my backup plan, which was Mew's car, which had just gotten new tires. Yeah, a clearer demonstration of that than fused smoldering wires. Yeah, he sent me some pictures. And then we get back from the trip. And I got call number 3, which was... This one I remember because it was yesterday. Alternate, yeah, no, it bungled the alternator. Like, the alternator was fine, and then the car, like, the ignition switch decided, we're done here, and it blew up everything. I had to get a new alternator. Actually, the alternator was also covered in oil because I have some oil leaks because it's an old car, so that didn't help. But I have terrible luck with alternators. Anyway, I've replaced alternators on every car that I've owned more than once. I have such terrible luck with alternators. Anyway, I had one that was almost DOA. Like, I replaced it, it was brand new, it died within a couple months. Just the coin flip. You know, luck of the draw, unluck of the draw, as it is. I don't have the Yarnish L4 that I need. Wait. Aha! Here you are. Let me just throw this down, because I'm going to need it in a second. So the call I got yesterday. The call I got yesterday started like this. Are you sure that you have never smelled electrical burning in this car? And I said, what did you find? And I could tell that he was like at the end of his rope with this whole thing. He even was like, I'm tired of seeing your car in here. You need to, like, we need to fix this. Like, he noticed some other problems, and he's like, I am not fixing those now. I will order the parts. I'll finish what I'm doing right now. You come and get this thing out of my sight. And then we'll see it again in a while. Once I have all the parts in that we need for the other work that has to be done. And I said, sounds good. I would like to drive my car after 2 months, after it hanging out in your shop. I love this mechanic too. This mechanic is one of my favorite people in the world. I have 4 speed dials on my phone. My mother, my father, my fiance, and Tony, the mechanic. The dude is just a legend. And he's performed miracles. He has performed miracles. Alright, let's do this, and then what I will do is, I will select this. Ah, no! Ah, no! That's exactly what we didn't want to happen. Alright, perfect. Select that, do this. Replace blind with selected asset. And now the bumps should be gone. Yay! Perfect. Hold on, we'll get to Gemini and stuff. The Gemini was water getting in the relays. That's pretty tame compared to this whole thing. So, like I said at the top of the show, the previous owner was very proud of the fact, when he sold it to me, he was very proud of the fact that he had rewired the car himself. And I don't know if that was true, but in either case, I don't think I would be proud of it if I were him. Hold on. I need to find the Yarnish L4. I have so many of these. 2.1, 2.1. Oh, 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 oh. L6, 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 D3. I thought I saw an L4. Ah, there we go. U. No, I don't want to connect the splines. Yeah, there we are. You gotta upgrade from yarn to yarnish. Oh, I can't do that with this, apparently. I guess I'll have to just do it myself. Um, what? Wait, what do you mean incompatible spline? It's the bridge for this road set. Huh? Excuse me? Hang on. Now I'm frustrated. Yeah, okay, it should be able to connect. Something's just broken. Hold on. So he shows me some pictures of inside the dash. He pulled everything apart. Oh, with the tires on Gemini. I think that was the tire problem. There's so much stuff that happened on Gemini. Oh right, and I think the relays was actually Apollo. Car problems. Dean, be glad the Envoy performed admirably for the entire trip. Otherwise, you would never live that down to New Orleans. Gemini was a tire problem. Yeah, I learned not to stand tires up because they stopped being round. So, yeah. He had to pull all this stuff apart. He had to fix wiring inside the dashboard. No, the trips were named after NASA programs. There's a whole backstory. The short version is Apollo was the trip to Apollo was the New England trip, which involved Mount Washington, which was the railway to the moon. So we called it Operation Apollo. That got pushed by a year because of COVID. So we did the trip before it, which was like a micro New England trip, which was Gemini because Gemini came before Apollo. More of a mission. So, oh man, I love the way this area looks. I know I keep saying that. Oh, your car's Christofferson. That's awesome. My cars are Nelly, which is the 940, and Betty, which is the wagon. And I also had Brienne, which was the 850 that I had. I was big into Game of Thrones when I named that car. So Tony fixes all this wiring. He calls me up today. He says, your car is ready to pick up. After all these trials and tribulations, he fixed the brake leak. He found and fixed the brake leak, I guess while he was bored. He figured out where the coolant is coming from, which is the water pump, which is a headache, but what are you going to do? Needs a water pump. Probably has the original. Has 200 getting close to 300K, I think. 270, 280,000 miles on that car now. Probably the original water pump. That's where the coolant's coming from. Didn't work on the wiring harness for the back hatch. Not really a problem. Got the inspection sticker that we needed. Got the oil change done. Fixed all these wiring problems. And now, the dash acts a little differently than I remember, but maybe a little bit better. And now I can start the car with the key again, because we finally replaced that poor ignition switch. And I took it out of Tony's, paid him a fat chunk of change, left Tony's, found my Knoebels tickets in the glove box that I had left in there from the last time I was at Knoebels, which was 2019, and was really bummed that I didn't have them for our trip to Knoebels. And yeah, put the video of me starting the car in the he even removed the wire. If I had it my way, I would have told him to leave it in. uh, Knoebels, where I brought that car and got locked out of it in front of Matt. It was the first time I met Matt. Happy birthday, Matt, by the way. Is that today or was that yesterday? I lose track of days. Happy birthday, Matt. So, yeah, the tickets are saved for next time. I'm going to pair them with the ones that I got from this time. Words, thinking. Yes, happy birthday, Matt. Oh, my neck. Oh, that hurt. Okay. When I turned my head, it hurt real bad. Um, Drove the car out of Tony's lot, happy as a lark, noticing that the brake pedal is much more responsive now than it has been for years. Um, and and then I pull up to the first stoplight, and the car almost stalls. And I went, uh-oh, that's not good. And I pull up to the second one, and it does stall. I pull up to the stop, it sort of shudders down, and then it, boom, boom, surges a couple times to try to stay alive, and then, boom, out. Oh, no. At least I can start it with the key, so I restarted it, and it idled okay. No, you're not going to have to get on the podcast. It should be in it should be in, oh, what, streaming and recording? Yeah, there it is. I think you should have put it in, streaming and recording works good. The Tolbrin Peninsula thread also works. But, I mean, it worked like a charm, 100% of the time. So, right, I decided, okay, maybe it's just a little bit tired, right, from sitting for so long. This car has been at the mechanics for like 2 months. It's probably only idled, basically. It is probably only idled for that time. And hasn't been properly driven around, so maybe it's just a little gunked up. So I got it out on the highway, and I did like a loop around, but the highway was moving kind of slow, so I didn't get it up in the revs. And I came back to Tony. I think you saw the 940 at Seashore. But I came back to Tony, and I said, like, hey, I know you're about to leave, but something's still wrong. Something is still wrong. I mean, come on the podcast if you want to come on the podcast. We've got plenty of topics. You're absolutely welcome to come on. Like, don't hesitate. And getting on the podcast is like one of the prerequisites for a horseman, but that doesn't, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Horseman promotions are very rare. Don't get tied up in that. You have most of the server at fan rank. Hey, East. You have like most of the server and almost all of the activity. I did some rewording in the rules recently to like sort of make that clear. It's like the hobo and horseman promotions are just sort of things that sometimes happen, and the server is fan rank. Oh gee. Well, we're not doing Locomotive Versus right now, so maybe just try to sneak in. I will get back to Locomotive Versus at some point. I know it'll happen. It's going to be a little while, but right now it's on hiatus on the podcast, and I am focusing on wedding planning and not trading cards. So all these things will happen. And like I said at the beginning of the show, so much keeps happening. Every time I think I have a minute to sit down and bang out some card descriptions or emails to photographers or do some research, like, something happens and I have to run out the door. We ended up dog sitting for a relative that got in a car accident. Talk about roads being unsafe. So I puttered on back to Tony. I used 2 pedals. I used 2 feet, and it's, you know, it's an automatic, so you're supposed to keep your 1 foot off to the side doing nothing. Um, I used a foot on the brake and a foot on the gas because I had to keep giving the car gas or it would stall. I also would throw it into neutral when I had to come up to a stop, so I wasn't fighting. Um, which was a really fun loop around back to Tony's, and I said, like, what's going on? What do you think? And he's like, okay, you know, is your check engine on? Whatever. No? Okay, all right, pop the hood. And he, like, sticks his hands under there. He messes with the vacuum hoses a little bit. He's like, okay, it's not that. And then he tweaks the throttle, and he's like, okay, your throttle is just dirty. Your throttle's dirty. It'll get better as you drive it. For now, here's what I'm going to do for you. And he reaches in there, and there's, at the end of the throttle body, where the throttle cable loops around and ties into, you know, like the stop, there's a little plastic piece that's a screw, and you can tighten it or loosen it to set the idle. And I had seen it a million times because I'd always open the hood to start the car. I've seen it gajillion times. But I never really knew what it was for. I never really thought about it. But of course, now knowing what it is, it's completely obvious to me that that's what it was for. And he's like, all right, I'm just going to, you know, I'm going to set your idle a little higher, and then you won't have this problem. And he moved it back and forth, and he was like, yeah, all right, should be good. Let me know if something happens, and, you know, I'll see you when I get these other parts in for you. I don't want to hear from you until then. That's not what he said, but it's what he meant. So, it's been fine since. And when I got home, after having driven on the highway, the car was idling nice and high, and I said, now I know what I can do. And I went back in there, and I unscrewed it a little bit, and I brought the idle back down to a normal level, and I was like, yes, mechanic. I am mechanic. And so, you know, everything seems fine. I'm not sure if you've ever heard this nomenclature, Dean, but that exact thing is something that I learned about recently. Not the thing, but the name. Which is, tell me if you've heard this one before, an Italian tune-up. An Italian tune-up is you get the thing on the highway and you just put your foot on the floor and you let it rev up, like, you know, well into the power band, like almost a red line, just to clear out all the carbon deposits and gunk and etc. Like, I had known about that being a thing. I had never heard it called an Italian tune-up, and that's perfect. I love it. Because my cars don't get a lot of use. I work from home. The grocery store is at the bottom of the street. I drive to the grocery store more often than I should. It's not good for the car. So every once in a while, I have to get it out on the highway and do that exact thing and go, all right, Italian tune-up. And I'll say to Gloria, like, Italian tune-up time. And I'll just floor it. It's so much fun. But yeah, so to go back to the beginning of the story, and then I will end the show. I could walk to the store. I walk to the store all the time, but when I'm buying more than like a few things, it's uphill back to the house, pretty steep. And when I'm picking up Gloria from work, I'm not going to carry them. So, you know, Gloria's on their feet all day for most of her shifts. So, the other thing is, if you did that, you quickly make illegal speeds. That sounds like a skill issue. I'm making illegal speeds too. Before I knew Gloria, I think it was before I knew Gloria, because it was a long time ago, the starting problem began. And like I said, it got to the point where it would not start with the key. I had to start it with the wire under the dashboard. And I know I'm just like bouncing around. I'm not getting anything done right now. I had to start with the wire under the dashboard like 99 times out of 100. I would still try it, but it wouldn't work to use the key to start the car. Had to have the key in it, so nobody was stealing it that easily, but also who would want to. The very first time I had an issue starting the car with the key was I was outside of what used to be the Rhode Island Mall. It's now called the Midland Commons. I think I was there because... No, there's a Kohl's in there. Yeah, that's why I was there. There's a Planet Fitness there, which is why I was there a bunch around that time in my life. But I don't think I was there to go to the gym. I'm pretty sure I was there to, like, buy a pair of sneakers. And no, it was to buy a hat. Sorry, it was to buy a hat. Oh, it's when I bought Kurt's hat. It's when I bought the flat cap that I used to, like, become Kurt. So yeah, I know Midland Commons Bar. No, listen. It used to be called the Midland Mall, and then it became the Rhode Island Mall, and then it stopped being a mall. So it was just sort of called the Rhode Island Mall for a long time, but it wasn't a mall. There was no mall involved. There was no interior space. It was all external storefronts. So they renamed it the Midland Commons. It's basically just an outdoor mall. It is an overgrown strip mall. It used to be a mall. It used to have a 2-story interior space with a fountain. It was gorgeous. That space hasn't been opened for at least a decade and a half off the top of my head. So, the Midland compound. Yeah, so it was once a mall. It became a dead mall, and only the anchor stores were surviving, so it became only the anchor stores. The interior was closed down, and I think it became part of one of the anchor stores, like that store expanded to fill it. I was there getting Kurt's hat, yep, and I came out to the car, and I turned the key, and nothing happened. And I went, oh no, because that had never happened before. These days, if I, for the last, 5 years, if I turned the key, or for the last couple of years at least, I turned the key and went, yep, normal day, let me go pop the hood. And I remember this, one singular wisp of smoke came out of the center console and floated up to the ceiling. And that was probably it. That was the first sign of trouble. That was something going. Some wiring going, nah, we're done here. I've been doing this for however long. Maybe it was a new wire that got installed improperly. Maybe it was an original wire from when the thing came out of Volvo in Gothenburg or wherever their factory is in 1992. Yeah, it was the car's soul leaving. It was just... I couldn't have written it. If I had written it, it would feel cliche. It just went. And I went, oh, huh. Well, that's weird. And then I popped the hood, did a little research. Car, key turns, no click, no start. What could you do? What could the problem be? Could be the start or this, that. Interesting. And I sat back in the car and I tried it again and it started. And for the longest time, if you let it sit for a little bit, and as long as the car wasn't hot, as long as you hadn't just driven, as long as one of those things was true, the car would start with the key. But if you drove somewhere and you parked and you left the car for 15, 20, 30 minutes, you came back and turned the key, nothing. Popped the hood, waited 5 more minutes for everything to sort of cool off and settle, and then it would work fine. So that was that way for a long time, and then it became unreliable, and then we put the wire in, and then it became not a problem, and finally, it got to the point where we had to replace the ignition switch. And now I have a normal car again-ish. Yeah, I think it was 2022 when it first really became a problem. Because that was the year that Weibold visited, and we had to sub out cars when we were going to go to Maine. Um, so, yeah. Um, anyway, I think I'm going to end it up there because I've filled in some of this. I've made this little potter's field. Actually, I'm going to show you what my inspiration was for this really quick. Um, while we are still on, uh, uh, while we are still on historic aerials, let's find my neighborhood that I grew up in. It's Garden City. There's Budlong. There's Gansett Avenue. Yes, that Gansett. Hi, neighbor. Let's go back to 1941. This area was a racetrack. That's where this curve came from. And I lived, if we go back to the modern day, in, let's see, this is Jordan, this is this house right here. You can see the double wide driveway that I talked about last time. All this aerial is it's not very good quality, but I lived there. There was my elementary school, there was my middle school, and my high school was right over there. So I pretty much walked to school for my entire childhood. Well, that was my first high school before I went to the Career and Tech Center. If we roll back to 1941, you'll notice that this neighborhood is not yet built. It is being built and being built out. And there are a ton of these behind the school. These little, like, shotgun houses. That's the only thing I can assume that they were. Also, here is this bridge that I love so much. That's a bike path now. I've walked down here to the riverside and just sort of stared at that. It's a very nice stone arch bridge. So you can see that it was sort of that for a long time. These quasi company, well, these were company homes, right? And they would have been for, here's a paper mill, I believe, and then there were more factories down this way. Narragansett Brewery would have been down here, I think. And so you have the company houses and the middle school. And eventually the company houses, I guess they didn't really give way to the neighborhood as we know it. They really became the neighborhood as we know it. But when I saw this, it looked so bare and barren. It reminded me of little shotgun houses. And now, you know, the neighborhood is pretty much the same. Anyway, that's my inspiration. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of, what do they race there? They raced cars. It was a very early automobile racetrack. All of the streets here, actually, let me do this. All of the streets here, or at least many of them, are named for car brands. Names that we might not necessarily recognize, but you've got Flint and Cadillac and Peerless, I believe. Some of these were, not all of them, but many of them were car brands, very early car brands. And like Fiat survived and Cadillac survived. Packard survived for a while. And yeah, I mean, some of these are probably car brands that I don't know about. And then yeah, here is what's left of this, which is the Cranston Print Works. And I also love to talk about the Sprague Mansion. I mention this like on every fourth show. This is a great little building. I've used this area as inspiration so much. It's got a little cupola up on the roof. I've been in that. I don't remember the circumstances that allowed me to get in that, but I got in it. So, yeah, now I'll end it because I am roasting. I already sweat when I already sweat when I make this show, like just automatically. I don't even know why. Just when I'm on camera, when I'm talking to an audience, I start buckets. But it's 90. It was 90 degrees here today. There is no escape here. Not next to my hot computer. What do you think, Venkman? Are you hungry? It's the only time you'll get any attention from him. This is the Admiral.